Hope everyone's having a pleasant evening. It's late July. Beautiful afternoon here in the Midwest. It was, I think, 75, 78 degrees today. Not a lot of humidity, tons of sunlight. Absolutely beautiful day. And we needed that because we've had a lot of rain lately. And before that, just a lot of hot, humid days. And it's terrible in the Midwest and most of the East Coast, at least the Northeast. You spend 8 months cooped up inside, waiting for it to finally get warm. And then around the end of May, you start to see the sun again. You start to be able to go outside. Barbecue season starts. And then you get like a couple weeks of nice weather. And then all of a sudden it's too hot to be outside. And so you don't have a lot of days that are just perfect here in the Midwest. But that's fine. You deal with it. And you get over it. We just pulled out of something called the Brady's Leap Travel Plaza on the Ohio Turnpike. We were headed out to the Bethlehem, Pennsylvania area this evening. Looking at a very late arrival. And we've made this trip a lot of times lately. We've actually driven just since Friday. It's Monday evening. In the last 72 hours, we've gone, I want to say 1,500 miles. Drove 500 miles west from, again, the Bethlehem area, Nazareth, Pennsylvania, back to southeast Michigan, 250 miles up north to like Crystal Lake area on Saturday, 250 miles back south on Sunday, and now we're heading 500 miles back to eastern Pennsylvania. And the travel plaza we just left a couple minutes ago. It's the same place we broke down 2 weeks ago in our Duramax, our 2011 Duramax with 375,000 miles on it. We were loaded up to about 23,000 pounds. And that engine, when it's accelerating onto the highway and going up a hill, either one. In this case, we were doing both. It's making a ton of boost. A huge amount of boost. 20 plus pounds of PSI of boost from the turbo. And the charge air pipe actually blew apart from the compressor outlet. There's like a big blue rubber boot connecting the compressor outlet to the charge air pipe on the hot side. And it blew apart and it separated. And we had to get someone to bring in a clamp to clamp it all back together. And then it did a second time later that evening. So it was a very exciting trip. First time we'd heard of such a thing happening. But then once we started talking about it with friends and got on, the Facebook groups and so on and so forth, it turns out it happens all the time. At least for the Duramax and people with other engines. Different, depending what year, people with the Power Stroke say the same thing happens too. The Power Stroke V8. So we're driving today in our 2021 3-liter Power Stroke diesel F-150. We've got the U-Haul trailer hitched up to it, the 12-foot U-Haul, which we seem to be always taking somewhere with something in it. Today, it's a relatively heavy load for this truck. I don't know if we've had it loaded this heavy before. We got 3,400 pounds on the front axle, 3,800 pounds on the drive axle, so that's about 7,200 total, and then about another 3,000 plus in the trailer, on the trailer axle. So we're at around 10,200 pounds total, and that is not quite double, but it's close to double. It's probably 60 to 80% more weight than this truck is pulling around empty. I think the curb weight is 6,000 pounds, give or take. And we're at the part of Ohio where you start to hit those hills, and it starts to get a little hilly, and then you cross into Pennsylvania and start to hit the mountains. And what I want to talk about today is the major problem with the F-150's powertrain. And it doesn't matter, we're talking gas or diesel. And what it comes down to is that this truck was designed in Michigan. and it was designed by people who live in the Midwest, and they just didn't seem to spend a lot of time in the mountains testing this thing. And the problem in an F-150, everyone talks about it when you're talking about pulling a big trailer. They say, yeah, you can get a big trailer moving with this thing because it's got all the power you need, but can you control it? Is the trailer going to start pushing the truck around? And we've seen that before. And more importantly, are you going to be able to stop it? And the problem with this powertrain, either the diesel or the gas, you know, the EcoBoost, the Power Boost, whatever the case may be, or your 5-liter V8, the problem is that it just doesn't know how to stop with a heavy load attached to it, with a heavy trailer, or with a lot of weight in the bed. And it's frustrating because heavy duty pickups, meaning 2500s and 3500s with diesel engines, have had exhaust brakes in them going back more than a decade. The Duramax had an exhaust brake on it starting in 2011. We've got a 2011 Duramax. It is phenomenal in terms of the way it controls the truck and trailer when you're going downhill, or when you're just getting off the highway and you need to decelerate in a hurry. It is practically, I don't want to exaggerate here, but it's practically, in terms of the amount of safety and confidence that it contributes, practically on the level of anti-lock brakes, or on the level of stability control or traction control. It is absolutely dramatic, night and day difference in terms of how much confidence and control it gives you when you've got a lot of weight on the hitch and you're going down a hill, or you just have to stop in a hurry. And for whatever reason, again, the light duty pickups, yeah, they're not going to tow a 20,000 pound trailer like a Super Duty will, or a Cummins, or a Duramax. But guess what? The F-150 with this engine, with the diesel, it's rated for about a 10,000 pound trailer. With the Power Boost, it's rated for about a 12,000 pound trailer. If you get the heavy duty payload package with either the EcoBoost or the 5-liter V8, it's rated for a 13,000 plus pound trailer. And so it might be just a light duty pickup, but you're talking about a substantial amount of weight. Again, with that heavy duty payload package, you're talking about doubling or almost tripling the curb weight of your pickup when you max out the trailer on it. And the problem is, again, it does not know how to stop. And it's not clear why, but Ford just, you know, the only thing I can possibly imagine is that, well, it's designed by people who live in the Midwest, and the Midwest is flat. And if all you ever do your whole life is spend time in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, you know, places like that, it's not going to be an issue, because you're not going to be going downhill down a 7% grade at the speed limit and then have to make a sudden emergency stop because something happened in front of you. You're still going to have to stop your trailer, but there is a world of difference between stopping a fully loaded truck and trailer on level ground versus going downhill, or even not even stopping, even just trying to keep it under control and trying to keep it from getting away from you on the downhill. Because naturally, a truck that's loaded with a heavy trailer is going to want to accelerate going downhill. And there's no worse feeling in the world than having that truck give you the sensation that it's really trying to get away from you, and put you in the ditch, or put you off the side of a mountain, or put you off the side of a bridge. And for whatever damn reason, Ford, in their wisdom, decided not to even offer the capability of an exhaust brake, meaning a turbo brake, meaning with a VGT, variable geometry turbo, which these trucks have, which these trucks have had for years. Programming it so that when you're off the throttle and you're either on the brakes or you've got cruise control set and the truck is trying to exceed the speed that you've got set on the cruise control, or it's just not decelerating the way that it normally would when you're off the throttle, the truck will automatically close the vanes on the turbo in order to generate a lot of back pressure in order to slow the truck down. And again, for whatever damn reason, Ford must not have done a lot of testing with this truck in the mountains, either in the Appalachians or in the Rockies or in any of the mountain ranges out west on the West Coast, because it's a glaring flaw in a truck that is so well sorted out in every other way. You leave Michigan and you get into Pennsylvania and you start hitting these steep downhill descents, and it's like the truck just doesn't know what to do, and it's like the people who designed and engineered and tested it never even considered that was a possibility. It's terrible. In the power boost, you know what happens when you're going downhill in the power boost? The engine turns off, and so it starts to take off on you with no engine braking whatsoever, because the engine is turned off and it's out of gear. So it's basically in neutral. And in order to get the engine to turn back on, you have to put it into tow haul mode. Okay, that turns it on. Doesn't really do anything for you still. And then you have to get on the plus minus buttons on the gear lever in order to start getting it to downshift manually, lock out those upper gears, or you just put it in a manual mode with the M button. And so if you do those two things, you put it into tow haul mode and then you start locking out the upper gears, or you put it in manual mode, yeah, eventually you'll get the engine to start, kicking up in the RPMs. But even so, that turbo is not programmed to act as an exhaust brake, so it's not going to give you a lot of engine braking in the gasoline engine, meaning an EcoBoost or a Power Boost. And in the diesel, it's going to do even less for you, because of the fact that a diesel engine doesn't even have a throttle. So there's no, it's nothing. And so in this thing, to its credit, it seems to be going through the motions. It seems to be trying. It's in tow haul mode right now. And so when you come off the throttle and you get on the brakes and you're starting to slow it down, and it's taking its time slowing down, yeah, it'll kick down a couple of gears. You'll see it do that. The RPMs will kick up. But again, the fact that the diesel doesn't have a throttle or an exhaust brake means that it's going to do nothing for you, even though the RPMs are getting boosted up, 3, 4, 5,000 RPM. Doesn't do you any good. So it's just kind of a mystery as to why they didn't consider the possibility that people might live in environments where you need to go downhill and you want the truck to stay under control, with or without a trailer, without having to ride the brakes and basically melt them as you go down steep descents in either highways or even cities. In Bethlehem, it's dramatic. In a place like, not that you want to spend a lot of time there, in a place like San Francisco, or just the Bay Area in general, or San Diego, where you would want to spend a lot of time. It's just a big mystery, Again, if some people just don't run into this. If maybe you live in the Southeast, and maybe south of Atlanta, south of Macon, or you're anywhere in Florida, or maybe along the ICW in the Low Country, all the way up the East Coast to like Virginia Beach area. You're not going to experience this. You could go years or your entire life without experiencing the sensation of being in a truck going downhill, and wondered if you're going to make it before the brakes melt on you. And I don't want to belabor it, but again, it's, this truck is so well sorted out in so many other ways. Ford took so much time and paid so much attention to detail and sweated all the small stuff on it to the point where it is practically a perfect truck. And yet in this area, this problem has been solved. Again, 10 years ago. More than 10 years ago now. The Ram, the Cummins, had an exhaust brake, I think, starting in 07, when they switched from a 5.9 to a 6.7. And so that was not an issue for a 5.9 Cummins, or sorry, 6.7 Cummins, starting 15 years ago now. And then starting in 2011 with the Duramax. And then I'm not sure when the Power Stroke V8 got an exhaust brake. It was around that same time frame. Again, 10 plus years ago. And yet, for whatever reason, Ford did not stop and think that a light-duty pickup owner, meaning an F-150 owner, might need something similar for when they hitch this thing up with a trailer anywhere near the rating. Which, as stated, in the F-150 with the heavy-duty payload package, we're talking 14,000 pounds of conventional towing. So, again, that's the big mystery. Why in the hell Ford didn't seem to anticipate that this is something a truck owner might want to do. Tow a big trailer, meaning 5,000 plus pounds in an F-150 up and down steep hills. Something else particular to this Power Stroke F-150. And it's another issue that, it's not quite as dramatic. It's not life or death. By the way, that's the Lordstown factory. Used to be a GM factory in Lordstown, Ohio. That's where they used to make the Chevy Cavalier, Cobalt, Cruise. And then about 5 years ago, the factory shut down. And then it sat there empty for a couple of years. And then a company called Lordstown Motors took control of that factory. And they were going to make electric pickups or electric semis or something. And they could never get their act together. I think they had financial problems. And there may have been some fraud involved. And they never really did anything with that factory. And now a company called Foxconn has bought it. A Chinese company. And so who knows, maybe they were going to be seeing American-made Chinese electric cars coming out of the Lordstown factory sometime soon. It's kind of a sad turn of events. You hate to see American-owned car companies not be able to make it work in America with American labor. For a while there, we thought maybe Tesla was going to buy that factory. But I guess that wasn't part of their plan. They did not want to be in the Rust Belt. Anyway, again, a problem with the diesel F-150, for those of you who own one, and we do recommend it very highly, in spite of this massive glaring weakness with the exhaust brake situation. A challenge you're going to experience with it is that when you're going up hills, as we've said a couple times, the transmission just doesn't like to downshift. And so it's similar to a number of other ones, a number of other transmissions and a number of other vehicles, in the sense that it tries to get into top gear as quickly as possible, and it does not want to leave top gear. And so you'll be going uphill in 10th gear, you know, with a couple of 1,000 pounds, 2, 3, 5,000 pounds on the hitch, and it's sitting there lugging in top gear at 1,200 RPM, even in tow haul mode, and it's kind of maddening because it just doesn't want to downshift, and so you got to manually take control with those plus or minus buttons, lock out the top gear, top couple of gears, and turn it into a 9-speed automatic or an 8-speed automatic, something like that. And you just think, like, how can this thing not be smart enough to tell that it's under heavy load and it needs to downshift? So that's a little bit frustrating. Got the same problem in our Duramax, actually, with the 6-speed Allison. The good Allison transmission, the actual. I don't know if you noticed, it did kick down a couple gears here while we were slowing down. Didn't do any good because there was no back pressure. But the 6-speed Allison, which is the one that everybody likes, the Allison 1000, that is legendary in terms of its reliability, in terms of how it can go hundreds of thousands of miles with basically no maintenance, other than occasionally changing out the fluid and filter, and that's all the routine maintenance that it takes. As long as you don't load it up with too much power. And, you know, chip the engine and add 150, add 200 horsepower. You know, as long as you don't do that, an Allison 1000 6-speed transmission will basically last forever. The only issue being, as we discovered the last time we went through the mountains a couple weeks ago with it, there are times when you kind of wish you had a gear in between 4th and 5th, because you'll be going uphill. You know, again, we were loaded to 23,000 pounds, and in 4th gear, it's kind of all wound out. It's at like 2,500 RPM, 3,000 almost, and then you upshift into 5th, and it drops down to like 1,500, and you're like, damn it, wouldn't it be nice if there was a gear in the middle, in between 4th and 5th, where you could just keep it around 2,000 RPM, so you can make the power you need when you're going uphill. Without having to rev the crap out of it in 4th gear. Between 5th and 6th, it doesn't seem to be an issue because the ratios are pretty tight there. But between 4th and 5th, there's just enough of a spread to where you almost wish like there was like a 4.5 gear, 4th and a half. And I'm only saying that because, you know, the 10-speed now, the so-called 10-speed Allison that they switched to in like 2019 timeframe, or maybe 2020. That's not a real Allison transmission. That's a GM transmission with the Allison badge on it. And there's a lot of people who have had trouble with it. Same thing with the Super Duty with the 10-speed. We just passed one that had like 5 cars in the trailer. And the Super Duty with the 10-speed, I forget the name of it, like the 10R80 or something, or the 10, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Like 70% of the parts are identical between the Ford 10-speed and the GM 10-speed in your heavy duty. It is not the same transmission as the 10-speed in your light duty. And again, this transmission has been great. With the exception of, you know, the 2 issues we mentioned in terms of the programming, but in terms of durability and holding up, we got 50,000 miles on our power boost, just about, and we got just over 15,000 miles on this one. And again, the advantage of a 10-speed, it's great because the ratios are so tight. You never find yourself stuck where, you know, you're revving the hell out of it in one gear, and then you shift up and the revs drop and your power falls completely off a cliff. the way it would in a 6-speed. And so we're very, very grateful for the 10-speed in this F-150. If it only did a better job of knowing when to downshift going up a hill in the diesel. In the power boost, it's not an issue because that thing's got it's so damn strong, and because it's got a 373 rear end, so it's not lugging the engine. In the diesel, yeah, it's lugging the engine hard, and the engine's 200 horsepower shy of what the power boost puts out. So again, I just want to point that out. We really, really wish, and Ford has the ability to do this with an over-the-air update. We really wish Ford would correct the issue with this transmission in the sense that, to the extent that it does not want to downshift when it should, when you're under load and you're going uphill. Plus, the fact that the engine doesn't seem to know how or want to use the turbo as an exhaust brake, which could save your life going downhill. Anyway, enough about that. We're going to jump off for now. Enjoy the beautiful evening sky, and spend another 5 hours making our way through the mountains of Pennsylvania. Hope you all are having a great summer. It is flying by at a breakneck pace, at least where we live. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later.